Amber Hollingsworth is on the show today, and Amber has two directions she has with her companies, and we're going to talk about families and addiction. One of them is her website and her services, Hope for Families, and the other one, Amber, is a really terrific YouTube channel called Put the Shovel Down. I know that you came from originally some inpatient
hmm
work, and then why was it that you decided to leave inpatient work and move into your own practice?
Great question, Janice. I worked in inpatient for almost 20 years, and I did inpatient, I did intensive outpatient, I did mental health, addiction, all of it. And even though I worked in a really good facility, I can't complain about the facility I was in. It's just that when you work in the system like that for so long, you start to see all of the glitches and the roadblocks and the problems with the bigger system. And eventually it just becomes more and more glaring as you once you notice these things and then you can't unnotice them and then they just seem bigger and bigger and bigger. Like particularly like the family piece. The family piece just isn't adequately addressed, I don't think, in an inpatient setting. And so a lot of that's what prompted me to say, you know what, let me try to do something a little different.
Absolutely right about the family, which is what I wanted to focus on today. I know I've talked to a lot of people who have come out of addiction themselves, and their story and their life story and their story about addiction and how they reached recovery. But as you said, we often overlook the family when it comes to getting out information. And
Mhm.
I come from a family where my father was a recovering alcoholic. I had an alcoholic problem. And I wanted to talk about first the one that really I think is a big one is, do I stay or do I go? And you
Yeah.
address this on your YouTube channel. And I had a member of my family whose spouse was very addicted to first opioids, which happened after a car accident, and then to meth and I believe some crack. He stayed in that situation right up until literally his teenage children told their mother to get out. And the rest of us couldn't understand why. Why did he take on the role 100% parent and feel like he was doing the right thing for his family?
Right. And a lot of people feel like that from the outside looking in. It's easy to say, well, if I was me, I'd tell you what I'd do. I'd kick them out. I'd do this. I'd take
Yeah.
us, that it's, I call it the big talk, right? It's easy to say when you're not in the situation. But the problem is, especially like when it's like a partner or spouse, is it's like there's no good answer. You feel guilty if you leave. You feel like you've like abandoned your spouse when they have an illness or something and they're struggling. You feel guilty for staying. Like, am I just being a big enabler and a big wussy and let myself get ran over? Am I hurting my children if I leave? Am I hurting my children if I stay? And you just feel completely stuck. And that's not to mention that, after this goes on for years, you get obsessive about this person the same way as they get obsessive about the addiction. And you're just caught in that cycle the same way they're caught in it. And you're just getting judgment and guilt from every which way you turn. And it's a bad place to be.
It's I guess there's also the decision, and you're touching on this, and you have an episode on your YouTube channel. Put the shovel down. Everybody,
Mhm.
go and take a look at this. There's I don't know how many episodes on there, touch every topic. Oh, so we could talk for probably 20 hours on this. But
Oh
anyway,
yeah.
um, once you make that decision to say, hey, enough is enough,
hmm
how do you deal with that? And what's the approach, especially if you've been sort of in that, am I enabling the person
Yes.
by allowing them to stay? How do you say to someone, okay, this is how you're going to deal with this, this is how you're going to ask the person to leave if they have to, or I don't know, go into treatment or whatever the process
hmm
is. So
hmm
where do you start with someone who, as you said, is sort of stuck in this cycle?
I think the place to stuck isn't so much even like how do you put the ultimatum out there or tell someone to leave or draw the boundary. You got to back up and say, and help someone figure out when to do that and why to do that. Because that's really where they're stuck is the like, should I do this? Shouldn't I do this? When's the right time? And a lot of times you get this messaging, like sometimes directly and sometimes just sort of, I don't know, indirectly, but that you need to put this person out or leave this person so that they'll get better. You know, you hear like, well, you're keeping them sick, you're enabling them. But I don't think that's a good reason to leave. There's this idea of, well, I need to make things as hard on this person as possible so they can hit this bottom and they can figure this thing out. But in my experience, that's not very effective. Most of the time, the person with the addiction just builds more resentment towards you, sees you as the villain. I can't believe you did that to me. And those consequences aren't necessarily going to make that person stop. It's just as good a chance it's going to feel more resentment and self-pity and make the addiction worse. So leaving or causing or telling someone else they have to leave in an attempt to fix them isn't a good reason because that could go either way and it's just as likely to go against you as it is for you. But there are some reasons to be done, and those reasons all have to do with you as a person. Like if you're in an unsafe situation, and I know that any situation when dealing with someone who has an addiction isn't good, right? It's not comfortable. There are some things going on that are just not good. But I'm talking about like you're being emotionally abused, you're being physically abused, your children are being traumatized, you're being like financially abused because sometimes it's like you're living with someone who's stealing with you nonstop. Like you literally are sleeping with your trunk locked up in your purse or your wallet under your pillow at night. And I feel like that's abusive, right? You would never live with someone else that you felt like you couldn't leave your purse on the counter at night. You know, if you're in a situation like that, that's a good reason to get some distance. And I'm not even saying you have to leave this person forever, but you need to like, safety comes before anything therapeutic in my mind. Another reason is if you have dealt with this so long that you have turned into this person that you can't even recognize anymore, you don't even like yourself anymore, you turn into a crazy, screaming lunatic, which is what happens to you when you stay in this situation for very long. Like it changes you and you've tried and tried and you can't even get yourself back. That's another good reason to go. Or you're just done. Sometimes you're just done. Like when people say, should I leave? I say, listen, you're not going to need to ask me that question because you're going to know when you know. And there wouldn't be anything I could say that would talk you out of it anyways. Like you'll know. So if you're just done, and like if they got sober tomorrow, there's just too much water, but you don't even care at that point. Like I can't do this anymore. That's another good reason to. But as you can see, all of those reasons are about you and not about how you think it's going to affect or not affect this other person. The worst thing you can do is put the big bluff out, which is what most people do, like several times, which is, throw the ultimatum out. They put the bluff out. I'm leaving, blah, blah, blah. And that almost always blows up on you because a lot of times you say that when you're really upset or really angry or you're coming from a very fear-based place. And the problem with that is once that emotion subsides, then you take it back because you didn't really mean it. You're saying it because you're upset in that moment. And then all those other feelings come back in and then you end up taking it back. And then you feel guilty because then you didn't even hold your boundary. And again, it's just one more pressure on top of yourself making you feel bad.
And then, of course, the person stops to just, well, that's just another idle threat.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like they say that once a week, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So you touched on guilt. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that that's a really big one. I think there's a couple of elements of guilt. Did I cause the person
Mm-hmm.
to have this problem? And then the guilt of if I leave,
Mm-hmm.
how will that person survive?
Right.
So
Yes.
let's talk first about the guilt that someone has or might have that they caused the problem. Maybe they felt they weren't home enough or they weren't emotionally connected enough, and the reason the person is having an addictive problem, substance use disorder, is their fault.
Right. I really don't believe you can cause someone to be an addict, like with the exception of if you've got a child you're doing like hardcore drugs with. Okay, I'm gonna give it to you. You cause that. Outside of that, outside of that, I don't really think you can cause someone to be an addict. I don't think you can make someone not be an addict. Like, I just don't believe in that. I do think there are some things you can do to make it worse. Those are usually accidental and not intentional at all, but I don't think you can cause it. And the guilt thing, I have this word I use with my clients. I call it guilt resentment. It's this mixture of guilt and resentment. It's the I feel terrible and I'm angry and I feel terrible and I'm angry and how dare you and I didn't sign up for this. And man, it's just a ball of ugly mixed emotions. And that's why you feel on this roller coaster where you feel like I'm letting them get by with too much. And then I'm mean to them. And then I'm letting them get by. And then I'm mean to them. And you're just going around this roller coaster because you're just so full of guilt resentment.
I like that, guilt resentment. I'm going to write that one down.
Yeah.
How does a person talk to their loved one, or it could be a friend, or a family member, maybe that's just more distant, not necessarily a spouse, maybe a parent. How do you say to them, I want to help you, and here are some of the things that I've learned, which is what you teach. Here are some of the things I've learned to help you.
I wouldn't say that at all. I
No.
don't think that's
Okay.
going to help at all. No, I wouldn't
Okay.
say that at all because, especially if you're dealing with someone like who's in denial,
Hmm.
because if you're telling someone they need to get help or you need to help them or whatever, and they don't even think they have a problem, you destroy any kind of what I call your credit score, your credibility, because they're just like, oh my gosh, Iroh, you're always, what is wrong with you? There's nothing wrong, and then they just immediately disqualify you. So I wouldn't approach someone with that. I don't see that that's helpful unless someone is coming to you and saying, I need help. I have a giant problem. Please help me. Then you can say that. But if you don't have that opening, I don't know how well that's going to go for you.
Yeah. So your philosophy and what I've seen, and again on your YouTube channel, is that this is about the person.
Yeah.
It would be about me
Yeah.
and my decisions,
Yeah.
and like you said, not about helping my husband or my wife, or even my children. Now,
Mhm.
let's talk about children for a sec. There's two elements of children that I
Yeah.
want to talk about. One is, how do you help a child who is experiencing addiction and is using substances? And that,
Hmm.
as a parent, and I've spoken to people who the it's the worst thing for some parents. It's the worst thing that could ever happen. And of
Oh, yeah.
course, some parents and families lose the person to overdose,
Yeah.
and they have to cope with that. So
Yeah.
where do you start if I came to you and I said, my daughter is is addicted now to opioids,
Hmm.
and I don't know what to do, and I am feeling just tragically ripped apart personally
Oh, yeah.
because I can't help her.
Exactly. Yeah. I find that, we deal with people with all kinds of loved ones who have addictions, but the majority of them are either spouses, like partners, or parents, right? And I found that the spouses are angry, rightfully so, and the parents are scared. And so they're coming from this real place of just desperation, just traumatizing fear all the time. And the thing everybody wants to do, regardless of which side you're on that, is you want to start talking to the person about how you feel, how you think you can help, what kind of help you think they need. And what works a lot better is to talk to them about how they feel. Like, don't bring your, it's easy to want to say, you're killing me, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're ruining the whole family, you're destroying your life. But that just makes a person defensive. And that's just human reaction or human nature. We're all like that. And it doesn't make them want to talk to you because it makes them feel bad. It doesn't make them want to change. It just really makes them want to avoid you. And like I said, then they sort of disqualify you in their head. What you want to do is, there's a couple of pieces to it. We teach a process called the invisible intervention. And the first most important goal, whether you're the partner, spouse, brother, sister, friend, whoever, is to get out of the bag of the role. Because as long as they see you as the villain, You don't have influence, which is necessary to help someone. You have like negative influence, like whatever you want, they're going to do the opposite just because they're so mad at you. Like literally, they're just going to despite you. They're going to drink at you or whatever. So you got to get out of that bad guy role. That's if you do nothing else, just getting out of that role will like speed this whole process up times a zillion. Then you want to build that credibility with them. And the way you build credibility with them is you understand their situation from their point of view. Now, that doesn't mean you have to agree with everything they're doing, but if you can learn how to use reflective listening and empathy statements and be able to just articulate to them that you see what they're seeing, now you have credit with them. And now your opinion matters. So if you can get out of the bad guy role and become sort of a trusted advisor role, then your opinion matters. And but not until you it's sort of a formula, get out of the bad guy role, build credit with them, and then the third piece of that formula is you just kind of wait until something happens. You know, there may be a few little things, but eventually something's going to happen, and they're going to be like, "I got myself in a big hot mess. I don't know what to do." And in that moment, when your credit score is enough, like in our invisible intervention, I teach people how to like calculate the credit score like you would if you were going to buy a house. Like you need to be in the 700s for sure. Okay. Don't
Right.
say anything until you're in the 700s. It's not going to work. Then you can cash in your credit. And then what you say and how you say it, actually, they'll be like, that's what I do with clients. I hear them, I listen to them, I have their back. Then I wait till they get themselves in a mess. Trust me, they will. I say, what do you think I should do? I say, here's what I think you should do. I think you should take your wife this. I think you should call this place. I think you should do this. Like, thank you, Amber. Oh my God, you saved me. Instead of feeling like I forced them to do something. It's different.
Yeah, it would be hard to. And of course, I was talking about opioids a couple of times before we got here, but alcohol
Yeah.
is I think probably still the biggest
Yeah.
substance that comes into someone's life in an addiction, or sometimes it's just drinking too much.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
necessarily addiction. It's a really bad habit where you come home every
Right.
night, you have 3 or 4 drinks, and you don't feel you're not seeing things in your world falling apart. So you think things are going kind of smoothly. I can see talking to an adult
Mm-hmm.
in the way that you're describing, but I imagine with kids, like, oh, come on, mom, me, it's all about you, me, and blocking that out. So being able to wait it up
Mm-hmm.
till your credit score is
That's
high
right.
enough is really hard. The other thing that kids experience is a child who is in a family or a relationship of some kind where their parent or loved one is addicted or
Yeah.
using substances to the max,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't understand what's going on, and that's a really common place for kids to be,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a helpless feeling.
It is. When you say that, it triggers me to think because I grew up in an addicted family, like everywhere, parents, grandparents, cousins, aunts, uncles, sibling, everywhere. And the crazy thing about it is when you grow up in it, it's your normal, and you don't even realize that it's abnormal. So it's like we're looking at these kids and we think, "Oh my gosh, you poor thing! Like how terrible." But but a lot of them are probably like me and literally didn't even know that was abnormal. Not that I didn't know like there was substance use going on, but I wouldn't have attached the word addiction. I wouldn't have thought my mama needs to go to rehab. Like it wouldn't have even occurred to me at all. It's crazy to think, but I didn't even realize it until I was in this field. A lot of people say, "Oh, you got into the field because you came from that." And I'm like, "No, I got into the field on accident." And then I realized, holy smokes, like that's not normal.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
sort of what happened to me, is that I grew up with in a family where, when I was younger, like in 6, 7, 8, 9, there was a lot of partying that went on, a
Yeah.
lot of partying.
I
And
just thought I had the cool parents.
exactly. No, exactly. And I just thought, because my parents' friends did the same thing. So they had
Right.
a group of
Right.
friends,
Yep.
always got together. The kids were good friends. We played, our parents got drunk. Like that
Ex-
was just, the way it would
mhm.
go. And my dad is the one, he got sober and went to AA quite when I say early on, he was in his 40s.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the things that he had done, most people would be like, what? And I
Yeah.
thought, oh, that's so funny what my dad just did. He just was out in the boat and he ran over somebody's dock, you know,
Right.
and it wasn't until I was quite a lot older and
Mm-hmm.
I actually went into recovery that I started to realize, and my dad is the one who helped me there.
Okay.
And I started to realize, and I talked to friends, I was like, oh, your parents didn't do that? My initial reaction was, well, he had a pretty boring life. And then as I got older and I started thinking about it, I thought, wow, they had this stability that I didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
And that feeling of, I never was at the place where, and I still don't think now that there was a matter of an issue of safety with me. But, my
Right.
mom, because of her experiences with my dad and with other people, and with me and my mental health and mental illness problems, she became a drinker.
Mm-hmm.
And she couldn't see it. She's not with us anymore, unfortunately, but she never saw it. She never saw that she was a drinker. And I
You saw
wonder,
that he was a drinker, but not that she was.
yeah,
Interesting, isn't it?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then she in her second marriage, her husband was a drinker, which again I think is fairly common once you've been in an alcoholic relationship. If you don't realize, you then get into another relationship.
Well, if you're already a drinker, then you're hanging out with other people that are already drinkers too, right? Like, and so you want to drink and buddy, it's how you connect. So,
You never drink alone. Very few people drink
right.
alone,
And
right?
then because that makes you feel better about yourself and helps you to sort of normalize it and kind of stay in denial, honestly.
So the obviously the original way that people started to help themselves and in families started to help themselves was the 12-step program,
Yeah.
specifically AA, and
Mm-hmm.
then Al-Anon, which was
Mm-hmm.
for families. And it seems to me that is still, I think, especially for the person who is using the substances, to be in a room with other people that they
Mm-hmm.
can relate to. Is AA still, you think, a place where people can go, not as maybe the only thing, but as part of their recovery? And is it something families should encourage?
I'm a big fan of AA, all the A's. I like all the A's. I'm not sold that that's what everyone needs to do. I think there are lots of ways to get there. I personally like the people I have in my personal life that are in recovery almost all exclusively got into recovery from going to some sort of 12 step. So I am definitely a big fan, but I also realize that there's a lot of reasons why people resist that, and a lot of them are valid or valid-ish, kind of
Yeah,
reasons.
yeah.
And so I don't push that on someone. So I guess I have two parts to that question, which is yes, I think it's a great way. I'm it depends on if your loved one is open to that. Should you encourage it? Yes. If they're not open to that, then stop pushing on that door and find another door.
You can listen to all episodes of Life Unscripted, Stories of Mental Health and Addiction, on your favorite podcast app or on my website at lifeunscripted.ca.